Okay, people, start by creating a new project, 2D this time. Since I am very creative, I called mine Game Dev Fight. Since this will be Game Dev Night.
Sound works.
Sound works, wonderful. So, yeah. New project, 2D. You give it the name you want. You can call it whatever you want. And open it up. I know it's gonna take a little bit of time. You know what? Let's take advantage of the time for the people opening that to do the review of programming.
Yeah,
2D. Do you want to start with the review of programming part?
You want to do?
No, never mind. Okay. I should have taken advantage of the waiting to tell you guys to open up a new project. My bad.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
Okay, today.
It should, no, it should be there.
We have it here.
I'm gonna wait by letting them see what you can do. Nah, she doesn't. Oh no, it's not yet.
I'm just here to have some. Yeah. Glad to be here,
Okay, guys. In like 1 month, you're gonna do the game jam. That is around the 8th of December, the Klagenfurt Game Jam. While I'm waiting for most of you to open up the things, I just wanted to show you what we did last on that Game Jam. Me, Ilva, and 3 other people that are not here at the moment. Well, 2 other people and some dead weight. And this was meant to be a platformer with some story. I actually dodged the story because I wanted to show the mechanics story. I will show the story later. I just wrote. Okay, this is a basic platformer with the controls you can see. I'm moving with WASD and jumping with spacebar. And let me get. That's right. There are traps. I got hit by the trap. Well, just to say that today we're gonna try to make something like this, on mechanics-wise. Story-wise, you need an awesome writer like Ilva, and I cannot give you one, so nothing to do. Okay then, does everybody have the project open?
Sort of. It's still building.
Well, we can say do the review, but then
The review. Yes.
the recap. We can do the recap while.
That's right, because it doesn't need it.
Yes.
I just wanted to show the double jump. Wait, no. Never mind.
Oh my god, you're so glad.
Yes, I am. Actually, few people managed to reach the end. Only the ones who really wanted to.
Did you manage to get Rickrolled last year?
Yes. That was another game. Okay, guys, I'm gonna delete what I already have. I will. Nah. Okay, this is an empty scene, just with the main camera. I believe that everybody has the same scene in front of them. As you remember, this is the scene view. This shows you everything you have in the scene. This is the game view. It shows you what your camera can see. This one here is the inspector. He will show us all the information regarding game object that we selected. And this is the hierarchy. Let's right click on the hierarchy and create a new 2D object.
I don't think is everybody on?
No,
I think some people are still building the project.
They're still building. Okay. There's a cam, everybody. Grimace to the cam.
present us the assets for.
And it's not even usable anymore by browser. You need to open it on sorry, not even usable anymore on editor. You have to open it on browser, download. Will I do it? No, the next time. give me a smile when it's over. No, I'm referring to your. Yes, did the project open up?
No, it's like 1/3 of the door, but I mean you can go.
Yes. Okay, I think Anya is gonna win. I wonder which debugger is gonna be worse. I wonder which debugger is gonna be worse, the C++ debugger or this.
Do we have anybody on Twitch?
Two people, yeah, who are they? Who's dirty skills?
Yeah.
I suppose it's Magdalena.
I couldn't be asked.
I don't know.
Could.
Did you download the
Okay.
I don't think as a client I don't think I can see who is.
Well, they don't have the names associated, so
Oh, yeah,
let us know who you are. We will say hi.
Scuffed.
So while we wait, and this is the project view. Now I'm gonna rearrange the windows in a way that I like it more. For example, I'm gonna do this.
Ooh.
I suppose it's not that weird what I just did, so that everybody can do it as well.
Where?
In the view.
Like this?
No, yeah, there. And now I think you can.
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay then. Then
Yeah, he's here.
he's here. Okay, I was waiting for this. Okay, let's start by creating a new 2D object, a square, as you can see, with right click on the hierarchy. Let's rename it background. And let's remember, every time you create a new object, reset the transform. Right click on transform, reset. And then let's make it big. This white wireframe rectangle you can see is the camera view. We want this background to be bigger than the camera view. So let's do 25, 12. And let's give it a... Wait, I'm going too fast. And let's change it color using, in the inspector, is sprite renderer. I'm gonna click on color and just choose a soft color. Let's go for bluish. It's okay.
Graphic design is my passion.
Okay, now I'm gonna create a new 2D object that is gonna be again a square. This one I'm gonna call it ground. I'm gonna reset its transform again. I'm gonna make it something like this. Now I remember you once again the shortcuts for accessing the tools. You can click on the tools, but the shortcuts would be Q, W, E, and R. In this case, I press W because I want to. Let's have it here. Because I want to drag it, and I will press Control so that it will snap to position. Stop me whenever something is unclear. And I'm gonna change color for it too. Oh, I like this one already.
Nice mood.
Nice mood.
Yes.
I can be blue, I can.
Maybe we should also make the player character in this color, so it's only silhouettes.
Oh, I like the idea. I like the idea. Okay, now I'm gonna create a new 2D object that it's gonna be. Yeah, I'm boring. A square again. This is gonna be the platforms. Reset on the I'm gonna call it platform. Reset the transform again. Let's make it like this. No? 5. No, too much. 5. Same color as before. Okay, to copy paste the color, right click on this, copy. Like you can choose whatever colors you want, so you just suggested me to use the same color to make everything silhouette. And let's move it whenever we want. Rocket the flying capybara. Now, in order to have everything organized and clean, I'm gonna create an empty game object. I'm gonna reset its transform to, and I'm gonna call it environment. And I'm gonna move everything I just created into the environment game object. In this way, every change that I will make to the environment game object will be applied also to the other game objects. Also, because of the order we created the objects, you probably can see both the ground and the obstacles without any problem. But after something, anything you do, the background could happen to be in front of the objects. Of course, we don't want that. In order to make sure that the background is always behind the ground, we change here the order in layer in the sprite renderer component of the background. And I will put it to something negative like -5.
Things with a smaller ordering layer are always drawn before the higher ones, so you can nicely rearrange.
The higher, the closer. Okay, now, since I really like to have everything organized, I'm going to create an empty. I'm going to click on environment, so that I'm already inside this game object. Create empty platforms. And I'm going to put the platform inside platforms. This way, if I want to change, to move all the platforms at once, I can do that. Same thing as before. Now, keeping platform selected, I'm going to press Ctrl D. So now I have a new platform. And I'm going to move it somewhere.
Control D like duplicate.
Exactly. You can do the same with Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And I'm going to do it again. Like this. No, I want to snap it. Snap it. Okay, let's leave it like this. This is going to be our simple level for now. Now, created our environment, I'm just going to click here to collapse it because I don't need to have it open. A new 2D game object, I'm going to make what do you want the character to, the player to be? What shape do you want? A triangle, a capsule, a circle?
Square.
A square. We said same as before, right?
Yes, we want to make an artistic style, so the
Once
player
again,
will
you
have
can
the
choose
same.
whatever colors you want.
Yes.
Now, for you team that will get bored in the following half an hour that we will be recapping last lecture programming part, try to use the coding, and also you, Mano. Well, you can do whatever you want, you already know this stuff. Try to use what we have seen last lecture of coding-wise to create a character controller.
Okay.
We will also get back again to a character controller for a version for 2D. I just want you to try it out so that you don't get bored.
Okay. So basically create the same thing we did last time but in 2D.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you have to reason accordingly for the vectorial part.
Okay.
Int exists a class called vector2d, vector2 instead of vector3. Okay then. Is everybody on par with this part? Is
Yes,
everybody
no?
not on par with this? Raise your hand if you're not here.
If you're not here,
Okay then. Okay then. Do you want to start explaining, recapping the variables that we've seen last time?
Oh yes.
I just want to do a little bit of recap of the stuff because I know that some of you are not totally familiar with it and weren't totally clear. But last time I also brought a shit ton of text, but don't worry, you can just listen to him. Okay, you're ready.
Okay.
You don't need to write it down. Also because I will give you all the script. In this case, here you just need, well, if you want to write it down, you can, of course. You just need to understand and stop us whenever there is something that you don't understand.
Okay, so in programming, we are usually dealing with data which can be interpreted in many different ways. For example, we can have data that is of a type of int. It's an integer variable. It's a whole number. With the game, the computer would interpret whatever is saved or stored inside this variable here as a whole number. If on the other hand we want to have something that is not a whole number but like a floating point, like 3.41, we would use a floating point type variable. The type of double is the same as a floating point, but the thing is that a floating point number has certain limitations on how large or how small the numbers can be. I'm not sure about the exact limits on top of my head. Something like 4 billion or something.
I remember that in C, a floating point variable has 32 bits, while in the double has 64. I'm not sure in C# though.
Yeah.
But what you have to understand is that double has much more space in memory reserved to it.
Yeah, so usually it doesn't matter for us that much, but just in case you need much larger number than float is capable of managing, you can use double to have like a much larger floating point number. But in most cases, we are perfectly fine with using floats. Character type variables are used to store single characters like A, C, period, a double colon, etc. String is a collection of characters. With string, you can save a group of characters. I think we can have it like here, for example, here. We have a string variable which has as a content hello world.
Yes, go up a little bit. I just wanted to show you the syntax you have here is the most bare bones syntax you can have. The type of the variable, the name of the variable. This is the bare bones syntax. But you usually, when declaring variables, what we're doing here is declaring a variable. We will use access modifiers like this, private and public. We've seen them last time. Remember that whenever you don't write the access modifier, the compiler will automatically understand that it is private. And then we can also initialize the variables. It means that initialization, you usually do that, you can do that during the declaration. It means that you already give a value to it. Remember that these are variables, so it means that the values can vary. You can go forward to, and please note, usually, whenever you give a value to a double or a float, sometimes the compiler are not really sure what you're giving them, so write an F at the end, so it will automatically know that it is a decimal. And when you're writing characters, with the single quotation marks, like this.
The single quotation marks means you want to use the content here as a single character, while if you use double parentheses, it would be used as a whole collection of characters, even if it's just a single character. This because we use here two quotation marks here, or double quotation marks. This is interpreted as a string, not as a single character. Okay. So yeah, of course we can after we have declared a variable, we can also change it. For example, int x with an initial value of 1. We can change the content of this x by giving it another value, for example 2. Or for example, if we have another variable y, no, not that, and y equals 3, we can also use other variables as a source value to store, like
Notice
x
do you have a
gets
question?
the content of y. Okay, so we don't have to use raw values all the time, but we can also reuse the content of other variables to do stuff. Or for example, we can also use int z is x. Where's your plus on this one? There, y. So we can also add two variables that we created before together and save it into a new one.
Give me just a sec.
Sure.
I want to remind you that this operator here, the equals, used once means assignment in computer science. It means that whatever is on the right gets into whatever is on the left. For example, here, since it's the keyword for the type int, it's a declaration. Here downstairs is here is not a declaration, it's an assignment, because in x has already been declared, already exists in our environment. This we are assigning to x the value 2. Now, don't pay too much. Well, I'm gonna tell you one more thing that it's not that much important at the moment, but the reason why I did all the declarations outside start and not inside. Could you get back down?
Okay.
And not inside is because in computer science in programming there is a concept called scoping. It means that whatever you create inside some brackets, like these brackets, can only be seen inside those brackets. It means that if you create something inside start, in the update function, you won't be able to access it. While if we create something outside start, both start and update will be able to access it.
For example, here in our start function, which gets, if you remembered from last time, it gets called when the game starts or the object starts playing in the level. Here we can see the scope of the function starts here and ends here. And so here we create a new variable x inside this scope, and for this entire scope the variable x is okay. We can use it. We can use it here, we can use it up here. X is 4, gets the value 4.
Question.
Yeah.
Can you do that with multiple variables like z, epsilon, z, going on with assigning them to equal other things? Like
Yeah, I can do right x equals epsilon equals
yeah,
z
no,
equals 3.
not equal equal another.
I think you want to do a multiple declaration when the
Sorry.
integrated
Equals y plus 5, for example.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you can also do.
Like this is a multiple declaration. You're creating two variables at once.
Okay.
Usually,
That's what
I never do that.
You can do it, but it's highly discouraged because
Exactly.
it can become really, really confusing when you do a quick read through the code what this actually means and who gets what variable. For example, what does it mean when I wrote something like this?
What do you think it
Then you
means?
first have to think about it. Here we declare a variable y, which a default value for the integer 0, and the z gets the 3. At least this is what I think happens. I never use it like this, so I don't remember. Personally, I always recommend one command, one line, something like that.
Okay. Any other questions so far?
There we said x equals 3, but then we say x equals to 4.
Exactly.
Doesn't it confuse the computer or something? Because
You mean
it
up
has
here?
two values now. It has two values now.
It doesn't have two values.
You mean
Doing
here?
an assignment, you change whatever it was in there before. It's an override.
You can imagine a variable is like a piece of paper.
Okay.
Okay? Here we write on the piece of paper the value 3.
Okay.
Okay, and here we use an eraser, erase everything from the paper, and write instead a 4 into it.
Okay, so it's 4 now. It's not
Yes.
Yes. And down here we erase it again and put a 5 into it instead.
Why do we do this?
Just
Why? Just to show you that normally you do that with variables. You keep on changing the values, sometimes even every frame. For example, I may have a variable that tells me, that contains, because that's what variables have, the value of what button am I pressing in the keyboard. That's gonna change every frame, because I want him to know every frame what button is pressed.
Or for example, what we also can have, if we have a player in our game, we can give the player a health variable with a default value of 100, and then if the player somehow gets damaged, we can then say the new player's health is, or let's say we have some kind of a damage amount from somewhere. It doesn't really do anything in this context here, but just for demonstration purposes, we can say we have our health, and then we say our new health is our current health minus damage amount. So that this is how we use
Is,
variables.
is this everything clear? What will the value of health be after this line of code?
95.
Yes. Does everybody agree? Okay then.
I just wanted to get back to the scoping. Up here we have the function start again, which gets executed when the game object starts playing, and here we have a variable that we create inside this scope. Okay, inside these brackets. Okay. When we create a variable inside this scope, when the scope finishes executing down here, the function gets executed line by line. First this gets done, then this gets done, then this, etc., etc., etc. Finally, it reaches down here, and every variable that was created inside this scope gets destroyed. Okay, gets removed entirely. For example, here, our x we created inside the scope of this start function, so x gets destroyed. While, for example, since the integer variable here, which is up here,
Sorry, the green part is not read by the compiler. Sorry, didn't say what the comment is.
Yeah, this integer variable is part of this game object itself. Okay, when it gets created, so it already exists when this function starts. We can see here we do not create a variable. We use one that is already part of this object's scope. Okay, so when this function finishes and the scope finishes, since this variable is outside the scope, it doesn't get removed. Okay.
Okay, so we put a value on the integer variable at first. It was like 70 maybe. Then at the start we made it 69.
Yes.
Then when it finishes, does it continue 69 or it turns into 70?
No, no, it continues. It stays as the last value that we put into it. So, for example, here, yeah, you're right. This gets executed, this function gets executed when the game starts. So the first thing that this game object does is to save the value 69 into the integer variable, and it stays there until we modify it again at some point, or until the game object itself gets removed. Okay?
Remember that the program is always read. It's typically read up from down. It means that if here I'm going to write again integer variable equals 420, then the new value is gonna be 420, and it's not gonna change until I change the value again. Anything about this topic so far?
Why is there an F at the end of the floating variable?
Because whenever I want to specify that I'm giving him a decimal, I write an F at the end. It's just easier for the compiler.
We
In
can,
this
we,
case,
can, we,
you
can,
should
we,
not-
can, we can try writing it
Yes, in
out.
this case it shouldn't be a problem.
No,
okay, it is.
condense.
It says it is not possible to convert implicitly the value from double to float.
Yeah. If we write a number 69.420, it's by default a double type value, which a double type doesn't fit into a floating point. Remember, double is much larger than the float, and so the computer doesn't know, yeah, what should I do? This thing is potentially much larger. We must specify that it's actually a floating point. That
Remove the F from the one below.
okay.
As you can see, here we don't have problems because I'm writing a decimal. And the computer understands that it is a decimal and says, okay, let's guess it is a double. I'm giving it to a double variable. Everything works. But still, it is good practice to.
But by default, usually in games we are working with floats. So
You use doubles when you need a lot of precision.
yes, but usually we use floats, and so this is the style that you should mainly remember. Like when we use floats, you put an F at the end of it.
In the same way for characters, we use the single quotation mark, and for strings, the double quotation marks. Consider that at the end of floats, we usually put the F. It's just easier for the compiler. The operators now.
Yes.
You were looking at the which stream. Okay, you have to write them now. Let's do plus, minus.
Do you
plus points.
do we have an executable game object for that? For
Well,
loading?
yes. Okay, guys. Now this game object, this script, as you can see here, I'm gonna go back to our scene.
Do
You have not created a.
Do you want to maybe then do that? Since you have the script in the game object. Do you want to do the operators?
No worries,
Okay.
you can do that.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm gonna create an empty game object. Like before, I'm gonna reset it. I will always do that. And I'm gonna call it. Well, you don't need to do the same because you don't have this file. But I'm gonna call it script orders. Well, explanation orders.
You don't have to create it. We are just using it quickly for demonstration purposes.
I'm doing this because it doesn't matter how many scripts you create. They are not going to be executed in the Unity editor until they are attached to some game object. For example, the one we just saw was this one, variables recap, and I'm going to drag it to explanation orders. Sorry, I just hold it. And I'm just going to add it here. Now, sorry, just going to say this part. As you can see, I put pi as a public. It means that it will be seen in my editor. Private variables won't be seen in the editor. So that's why we can see pi and also hello world, because it looks like I also put hello world in public. Remember this. And you can see that here on start, which is executed every time we play once. We have some functions. Do you remember what debug.log does?
It was showing on the console.
It prints on the console, exactly. So it will print, in this case, these variables you see, these values you see here. Just gonna play. Probably you're not remembering what was in the script, but this is consistent to what we were expecting. Yes, now you see that these green parts are not read by the compiler. These are called comments. When you comment something in a program, it's something that is meant only for humans and not for PCs. You do a comment by putting this double slash, or a comment block with this combination of symbols here. For example, now I'm just gonna want to ignore this debugs here. Yes. And want Stefan to show you a little bit of the operators. You can create new variables if you want.
Just as I mentioned, comments are usually used to make notes for yourself, so you or other people can understand what your code does when they read through it. Some people, unfortunately, have the habit of writing very, very hard to read code. So having comments is a very good thing to elaborate on what your code is meant to do.
I just commented everything because otherwise the editor is going to give us a lot of warnings because I'm not reading the variables I'm using. So now you can create the variables and do
Okay.
the plus, the minus, the division.
Okay, don't worry, we will be finished with our recap in a few minutes. I just want to do a quick recap on the operators that we learned about last time.
There are two types of operators, math operators and logic operators. The math operators are what you remember from math. Plain as that. Yes.
There's your plus.
It's always funny here that everybody has computers from their own country, so everybody has a different keyboard.
No, the thing is, my laptop has a numpad. So.
That's a
Yeah.
old laptop thing.
No. Okay. What are mathematical operators? Here you can see we have types of integers, two types, and then we can, if we want, we can do something with them, like for example adding them together. Okay? And then whatever is the result of this gets then used. Okay? So does anyone know what the result of this will be?
It's gonna print 30, yes.
Yes. So, and since it's inside this debug log function parentheses, it then gets used by this function. It will then print it out.
You have to press clear.
Oh yeah. Again.
Oh.
No, it doesn't do anything.
Why the?
That's rather strange.
Let's see, it's something weird with the comments I just made. No, it shouldn't be like this. Try printing just text.
Just trying to be really pedantic.
You have to understand that computer science is a little bit like magic. Sometimes the spirits don't want to answer your prayers. Okay. For some reason,
I don't know why.
neither do I.
But yeah, you can see here we can use the addition operator to add two integers, for example, together.
Well, let's keep, as you can imagine, using minus or multiplying with the asterisk or dividing with the slash, it's gonna do the same operations that you would imagine from math. And these are integers. Same goes also for floats and doubles.
Yes.
Some of these operators can also be used on strings.
Yes. We also have for mathematics. We also have the modulo.
I don't think they will ever use that.
So
I don't think they also
Okay.
know what modulo is.
okay, then we will skip that. But yeah, for numbers like integers, floating points, doubles, we have the normal standard operators. You know, plus, minus, multiplication, division. You know from school. But we have also operators for other things. For example, what we can have is string. Hello. And then we have another string.
Space. Put a space.
Yeah. keyboard is confusing me.
I know. Do you want me to write?
No, that's okay. And what will happen if I put it like this? What will... Hello, exactly. What will happen if I put this? Exactly, we can use the plus operator to fuse two strings together. Keep in mind.
I want them to see how it comes
Okay.
out though. Yes, Unity will always reload the script.
Yes. Here, hello world. You can see there's no space in between. What we can do to do a space in between is add another string between it with an empty space and then another plus, so we add three strings
A little bit here.
together.
Is this this operation clear to everybody? Is it unclear to anybody?
Does it recognize the space? For example, if we have the hello added like a space?
Inside the double
Yes.
quotation marks, it recognizes everything. Mostly.
You mean this space here?
Yes.
Yeah, that space if we put
Well,
it in-
if I remove it,
It's empty.
I have to stop playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello world together, because we are taking the string hello, putting a string that has nothing to it, so nothing gets added to it, not even an empty character, and then we put the other string to it, so it's one word, then nothing, plus another word, so they're both together. Okay. Keep in mind that using this to merge two strings together does not modify the original string. So when we do I will just use the mouse.
Do you want me to?
No, that's okay. So if we do it like this, here we can see this output, okay, hello plus world together, but we can see here that the original strings did not get modified, okay. This here, if you merge two strings together, it creates an entirely new string, okay. What other operators do we have? Yeah, logic. What we also, if you remember last time, what we also talked about were logic operators. Logic operators are used to determine something, whether something is true or false. Okay, so we can make decisions based on that. For example, what we can do is bool is x 0. And what should that be? Well, we are checking whether 1 is the same as 0. Okay, so we are comparing.
Put the brackets, please.
Huh?
Brackets.
Okay, just okay for clarity's sake. So here we are comparing something. We are comparing 1 with 2, and we get a result from that. We are comparing, we are checking, is 1 the same as 0? Okay, and then we can debug log it. Don't worry, we will be finished in a moment and get to new stuff. So what will the output of that be? False. No is not,
In bools, you always have true or false.
yes, true or false. So yeah, false. While, for example, if we do it like this, then of course 1 is 1, so it is true. It would be true.
Remember, always double equals. A single equal is an assignment.
Yes.
Double equals to do the operator. It's kind of fun because there are some situations in which your code is looping, and if you forget to write a new value, and so you write once instead of twice, everything breaks.
What we one moment, let me rewrite this real quick so it actually. Okay, instead of checking for equality,
You don't have it.
oh yeah. Instead of checking for equality, we can also check for in or inequality, whether two things are different. Like this. Okay, instead of double equal, we do one exclamation mark and equal. Does anyone know what the output of this would be? Exactly, because x and z are different. The inequality is true, so the output would be true as well. This, for example, would be useful for checking whether the player has enough health, whether the player is still alive, etc. And yeah. Other things we can do for checking is, for example, whether something is greater than something, greater or equal of something, and the same is, this is smaller than, smaller or equal. This is greater than or greater or equal. Okay. And are there any other?
Brad, can we just
Are they
Yes.
using this to like end the level or something? If x is bigger than z, then pass the level.
For example, if you have a score in your game and you can check whether the score is equal or greater than 1,000, then you win the game.
In just a few minutes, we're going to show you new programming keywords that's going to use these operators a lot. Also, we remind you from our last lecture, the if operator, the if statement.
Yes, let me do something gamey to make it more relatable. Damage is 5 again.
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay, or we can do it like this. What we need to do in games is also sometimes make decisions based on certain values. Like we just had recap the ability to compare values, and then we can make decisions or different things depending on the results of these evaluations. For example, what we can do is to check whether our health is or our damage that we received is greater than our health. In that case, where's your
What were you looking for?
the brackets? Ah, okay.
Yes, it is.
Oh, they're invisible on your keyboard. Okay.
Yes, they
That's
are
nice. So by default, the player is still alive, but if we see if our damage is greater than our health, then we could set our still alive to false. So here we can do with the result of this comparison, which is either true or false. We can then make a check. If whatever this inside these brackets is true, then this scope gets executed. Okay. Otherwise, it gets ignored. It would then ignore this and jump down here. Okay. While we check whether something is true, we can also, after checking whether something is true, we can also do an else. So we check if our damage is greater than health, then still alive is false. Otherwise, we can say else. No.
Almost.
Oh, with shift, okay.
Sorry.
Otherwise, Yeah.
Health minus you got.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
Health minus you got damage. So we teach you also new operator. These operators are called operator assignments minus you got. No.
Yeah, one moment.
Okay.
Okay, so if our damage is less than our health, then we just subtracted the damage from our health, and this becomes the new health. Okay, so the player is still alive and just a little bit less health. Okay, so you can see we are taking some current value, doing something with it, and then assigning it back to this value. Often programmers are lazy and say this is too much to write. There's a shorter form for this, which is where's the minus on this one? Which is this. It means take the health and subtract the damage from it and reassign it as health. Okay, this is just a short form. You don't have to use it. Some people find it confusing to read, at least in the beginning. So if you want, you can always keep it in the basic form of this.
See me use it a lot. It's the operator assignment. Just can you get back to it?
What?
The operator assignment. Oh no. It's always an operator in front and a newels after the operator. It always means to take what you already have and subtract, in this case, something on the right. If you put a plus, it's to add something on the right. If you put an asterisk, it's to multiply something on the right, and so on. And also, I want to show you other two operators that are very easy. That is the post increment and the post decrement.
Okay. But yeah, in the beginning, I would recommend using this kind of stuff.
Okay, but we will use.
Yeah, I'm just saying in the beginning, this is usually the easier thing to do.
I will change the line of later.
Sometimes you want to increase or decrease something just by one. Like for example, if we pick up a power up, we would write health is equal to health plus 1. Okay, sometimes you want to do that, just increase by 1. Again, programmers are lazy, they don't want to write health 2 times. What you can do is, just like you've learned, write it like this. But there's an even shorter way to do this. Just write this. It means increase health by 1. Okay? And the same decrease health by 1 by subtracting 1. Okay? These are all shortcuts just for that. Okay? But in the beginning, it is perfectly fine to write code like this. Write code so you can understand it yourself, so you feel comfortable with it. There's no point in trying to be the ultimate hacker.
To use the other operators, we're just explaining them to you because if you already see somebody else's codes, you will see them.
Yeah, but I'm just recommending try code so you feel comfortable with it. There's not really a reason to show off what a lead hacker you are. Okay.
Okay, after this we go straight to arrays or loops.
Yes.
I don't remember which one I'm going to do. I do first loops.
Well, you can do arrays
Yeah,
first.
do loops and then arrays and then back to loops. Okay, these new operators and the else of the if statement or what we just explained new. Is anything unclear about this? Okay.
And sorry if these parts sometimes are a little bit dry and boring, but these are the essentials, so you understand what the code is actually doing.
Warning.
Yeah.
I just don't want the warnings on that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, also good. Still going. Now we have another script. I'm also gonna pass you all the scripts, so no worries. Now I'm gonna show you a new way of having variables. Basically, we have seen a few variable types like int, float, integer, and so on. You can have also, instead of a variable, an array, which is multiple variables of the same type.
Just like, for example, a string is a collection of several characters together.
Wait, it is not in C#. It is in C, in C++, but not in C#.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Old school, it was
I
like that.
just
yes.
wanted to give an analog.
For example, here we have an array of chars. Sorry, I always say chars. Characters. It means that this container, because just like the variables, it is a container. Instead of containing a single char, it contains multiple of them. The symbol to let your compiler know that you want to write an array, not a single variable, is this square brackets. Here you can see that I'm doing a declaration of an array plus the initialization. I'm giving to this array of ints these values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So the variable contains a whole of 10
Numbers.
integers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just give me time to write it down. Next, you can see also that I made the same thing, but instead of integers, it is strings, and this is a variable meant to hold the color names: red, blue, yellow, and so on. Somebody noticed.
Is the order important in the arrays? Like, do they?
Yes, the order is very important.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
But
Because
for example, in a real game, these arrays could be used to store your skill list in an RPG, or for example your weapon list. What kind of weapons?
you will
yeah.
use them for a
Yes.
lot of
Yes.
stuff, a shitload of stuff. Very
There is something for, like, I want to take the fifth item of the array and then I get this.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. How do we do that? If everybody has understood this part here. Once again, arrays are multiple ordered variables of the same type together. For example, now I wanted to do looks what I'm doing arrays. Never mind.
Let's do arrays first.
Yeah. Now I'm writing a function that I can explain to you in a moment. Ignore it. Now I just created this. What you need to know is just allows me to print all the contents of the array.
Perhaps add scope. Scope brackets to it. So it's more viewable.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm also gonna do the very same for another one downstairs. Okay, let's explain one by one what I'm writing here. Here, I am printing all the contents of numbers up to 10. As you can expect, it will print on the console 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I will explain in a bit what a for each is. A moment ago you asked if the contents of the array are always in the same position. Yes. And that's why you usually access them using indexes. Since for example, color names has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors. You will use an index to access exactly to the position of the contained part. For example, now I'm giving 3 as position, and it will return me the object in here. This is the fourth object, not the third.
Array indexes always start at 0. This is a little confusing at first.
This yes, write it down that indexing always starts at 0. In fact, I put the example here. If I want the cell at position 0 of numbers up to 10, it will give me 1.
It can be a bit confusing at first, starting at 0, but you're getting used to it.
Now, for example, here, I'm indexing the fourth, actually the fifth value of color names, and I'm changing its value. Exactly like variables, you change the values of variables. In arrays, you can change the values of specific variables inside the array. In this case, I'm changing the specific variable.
And can you do like color names bracket 4 equal color names bracket 1, and does it swap, or can you swap directly, or do you have to?
If I do like this,
No, it will just replace, but you will lose the fourth one.
sorry,
You will lose if you do like this. You will lose the fourth one, and
you will have them 2 times. If I do this, for example, who's at place 1, blue, it will be again at the place of before. Yes? Okay, let's do an example. Now, like I said before, in order to execute a script in my editor, I always have to attach it to a game object. That's why I created this game object, and I'm going to attach it array explanation. Now, let's go. Let's go. Okay. One thing first. I said I'm going to print the contents of numbers up to 10. To no one's surprise, we have the numbers up to 10. Then, I want to print exactly the object in the fourth position of the array color names. This one is. Nope, this one. Then the first object, because the 0 is the first object, of numbers up to 10, which is 1. Then I am changing the fourth value, the fifth value of color names to black, and printing all color names. Nope, till here. And look at this. You see the colors red, blue, yellow, cyan, black, lime, purple. Then I do this, in which I put the third color in the fifth one. So I put yellow at the place of lime. Is lime the fifth one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. No. It is black, the fifth one. And you can see that we don't have black anymore, but we have 2 times yellow.
so for but wasn't it the fourth one, like yellow was right to the equal, no? It works in reverse than
What is on the right gets inside what's on the left.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I got confused.
Okay, guys.
Okay.
Any questions so far?
Have you explained for each?
I will now explain all the
Okay.
loops. Okay, one last thing. Arrays have properties. For example, since array have a fixed length, I can ask to tell me exactly the length of the array. For example, numbers up to 10 will return me. Let's put this here. Will return me the number, the size of the array. Okay, now I'm gonna pass up to a new topic. Stop me now if there is any, well, but also later if there is anything unclear about arrays.
Array index out of bounds. Random.
Okay, since arrays have a specific size and you need to access them to indexes, if you put an index that is outside the size of the array, for example, if I want to access what value is it gonna give me?
You can see up here, he wants the index 11, but here we can see the valid indices are just 0 until 9. Okay, what happens when we try to access index 11? Can anyone guess?
An error.
Yes.
And it tells you index out of range. Simple as that.
So when working with arrays, be careful that you only access indices that are actually valid.
Okay then. More programming information, but I swear this is the last one, kinda. Loops. Do you want to do that? Do we do that?
You can do it.
Okay. He said it many times. We are lazy. Programmers are lazy. Whenever we want to do something and we want that to be repeated, we don't write it multiple times. We write some things that repeats it multiple times. And those are called loops because they loop on a code block. The first and easier loop function is called for. Now, this is going to be a little bit complicated, so put attention. Just wait. I see everybody's writing down some stuff. So there are 3 things inside the brackets of a for. The first one is gonna get executed before anything else. Before the first iteration of this. This is the code block. Just like the if statement. If the if statement is true, you get inside the code block. Else you don't. Again, we want to get inside here, but we will iterate what we have here multiple times. This is done before. This, the third one, is done at the end of every iteration. And this is asked at the end of every iteration. This is the exit condition.
The beginning of each iteration.
At the beginning, yes, sorry. This is done at the beginning of each iteration, but this is meant to be the exit condition. So in this case, you must always see something like this. Inside this for, I am creating a variable, an integer, and I'm giving it the value 0. Every iteration, I'm increasing by 1 the variable 0. You already seen a moment ago this this operator. I can also write like this, or I can also write it's the same thing. I'm just gonna keep it plus plus unless anybody has something against it. Are you racist against the plus plus? Okay, so I'm starting with 0. I'm doing an iteration, and I is gonna become 1. This is gonna be asked. Is it less than 10? Yes. Then I'm gonna still be here, and so on until this exit condition becomes false.
Usually in for loops, you can see int I equals 0. This is always some kind of counter that gets modified. In our case, we have a counter that starts with 0. We are asking ourselves before executing this, we are asking ourselves, is our I, 0, less than 10? Yes. So we execute whatever's inside here, and after that, we are increasing our counter So instead of 0, it becomes 1. Then again, we are checking, is our I, 1, less than 10? Okay, so we are executing this, and after that, we are again increasing our I counter. Okay, this is our for loops.
Does anybody wants to guess what this piece of code does?
Cookie 10 times.
Is it clear to everybody? Why does cookie 10 times?
What happens
Now we do have other example afterwards to. Never mind.
What happens if we do it like this? What will happen then?
And it will be like 5 cookie.
Exactly. Our counter starts at 0. Is 0 less than 10? Yes, we are printing the stuff, and we are increasing our I by 2. So our counter gets the values 0, 2, 4, 6, 8.
Everything that is in the brackets underneath the 4 is what is going to repeat.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's the code block.
Here we start our counter. We are checking our counter condition. If this is true,
Then
this gets executed, and after this,
if we put E instead of cookie, will it be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6?
well, in this case, it would be
Right.
0, 2.
As you
4.
can see, in
This didn't.
this is the one for before. Sorry. Mhm. Do you remember? Now press the box to disable the component so that it is not seen. Here it is printing cookie 10 times, as we expected. Now, because this was not saved, I saved it, and let's get back to the editor. It will be printed. How many times?
5, but
You didn't clear.
I didn't clear. I didn't clear, but it would be 5 times. My bad. Okay, now you asked to put the I.
How about cookie plus I?
Okay.
We can also use a string. Remember, if you remember, string plus another string is a combination of that. Exactly that we can also use a string plus a number, and then the number gets attached to the string as a new form of string. Yeah, cookie 0, cookie 2.
Do you want to do a little bit of a pause? Do you guys want to do a break? Because I see most of you a little bit worn out. Okay, let's take a
I
5
think we can
minute.
take a break and then we do the second half.
Oh. Okay, finish our.
Oh yeah, but let's take a break for now.
No, okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Come on. I'm combing my finger.
Because I see that most of you are close. So basically, I tried my best to make them as fast as I can see. So this is basically so you have control over all the platforms, right? Yes. For example,
Okay, let's move that.
yeah, my mouse is being very uncomfortable. Yeah, but like the thing I don't get is like, I mean, I understand it, but like if I, for example, remove all the items like this and I put them here. Yeah, but is there an easier way to don't do that? Because then the boxes all like act as one collision, right? The platforms have a single collision box. Yeah. Is there?
Well, the box is not is an object holding.
Yeah.
This is
I have a group. This is the empty object.
the empty game object. Not
Yeah.
the cosmos
But
itself.
is there like an easy way for me to? I mean, not just
What you can do,
shift click and then.
what you can do, and this, that we talk about previous.
No.
Okay. So if you delete two platforms,
Wait, let me just quickly add the collision box back.
no, you don't need that. Delete two platforms.
No. Not buying it.
Okay, now add no collision. going to use this platform as a template.
Yeah, that's like
Go for your content block. And then you drag it out your platform. Now this is a template.
okay.
So
If I now
you can drag and drop this in.
yeah, and so if I change here now, all the locations will be
Yeah, but you have to change it in the keyboard.
yeah.
If you
Okay. Yeah, these are instances. Also, I have this. What is the I gave this guy. I gave him a mechanical controller.
I think I'm not sure that's
But it doesn't work with me.
No, they told me this.
I'm not sure.
The problem at the moment is I have written this simulate trees, and it just
But they, but the fact that they gave you a second chance.
it just falls.
Well, did you give your player permit?
It doesn't allow me to do that. It says, oh, you cannot do that. Where do you place it? The documentation says
I think it's because data players 3D.
so I need to do the box.
Well, it is generally not a good idea to mix 2D and 3D.
Yeah, no, I get that. You mean, oh, no, it's not fully sure.
Yeah, because I think it makes them together. I don't think they.
Okay, then I'll need to write it myself.
You give your player. Okay, the sound has a.
That's a box line.
Yes, and so the player also has to. And I think that you're looking programs.
Okay, then I'll have to write it to myself. I guess find something to remove my workload.
Where, okay, you have something that simulates
Yeah. Basically, I have a velocity vector with an I component which basically simulates
Well, what we need to try for now is remove the component and instead
yeah, rigid bodies.
just has it. For now, just has it. Well, first you need to remove access. Of course, you need to well, you have to remove access. Instead of moving your videos to but you can just comment it out, that's for now, just remove it. And you also
yeah, it's not a problem. It's not a problem, right? That the camera is in the here, because then it will also have the razor body and box fly. Am I wrong?
No. You have the camera attached to the that means the camera itself doesn't have it, but because it's attached.
Okay, so because this is an actual already and not an empty object.
Even empty objects have some kind of position.
The main camera version is very collision.
Okay, but imagine this kind of
I'm gonna give you 30 more seconds, and then we're gonna get back to the loops. I'm sorry. I know you want to go outside, breathe air, touch grass, but we are programmers, we never touch grass. Nah, don't worry, I can wait for you. Yes, that's exactly what we do. Whenever you create a variable inside some brackets, we won't receive a
Maybe try to unconnect this at first. Just ignore it for now.
Do they have some courses in cultural history, like Japanese media, which kind of relate to?
That's what I'm
Yeah, me too, probably.
Wait, it's so small.
Oh, yeah, because it's
Yeah, totally, but like that's most of
You want to show.
very, very small.
history.
Speed is 2, this is very small.
Okay.
What we
Delta T is a very small number.
You're checking X.
If it doesn't do anything now, then we use it.
I got reach.
If you get it,
It's so much harder.
You can say feel it.
And also just inline communication. It's a different play style. So something basically now I can do
this number is making me think I would have more confidence. It keeps moving
I got cheese so because I get a little my boss texted me sometimes, he sent me a voicemail.
Just for now.
I have an answer.
I'm gonna get back to the lecture. Whoa! I fucked everything up. Whoa! Oh, come on.
Because delta time is very small.
Okay.
No, wait. Delta time is the time since the last.
Did you make it yourself?
Usually, it should be enough.
Like store bought, I want
Okay, try something different.
We will start in 2 seconds.
Okay. Change your target.
Are you ready? Okay, guys. For the 3 of you that still need programming, for the 3 of you, question. Would you like if I created some exercise sheets for practicing what we were just doing?
What did you say?
Would you appreciate if I created some exercise sheets to practice the programming?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah? You would like that? Okay. Not today, but tomorrow we'll give you these scripts. I will finish them up so that it's everything clear when you read them. And also a list of easy exercises to make you practice a little bit this concept and better understand them.
The thing with the 4 is, I wanna ask you, I thought everything was in this order, like going this way.
No.
Like
Inside the door, remember. This is called the end of the presentation. At the start of everything. And this at the start of every iteration. Yeah, specific.
It's a horrible keyboard. No, it's not. It's not.
Read here.
Okay, let's try now.
Yeah. No, I understand this, but shouldn't it be this last thing somewhere here?
No, because that's this. Now I'm gonna show you another loop that is more similar to what you're thinking. Okay, guys, for the 3 of you who need this, I'm gonna give you other examples of how to use the for loop. Nothing different than what we are just seeing. For example, we have this. Can you tell me? You know what? We have 2. The first one of you who tells me what is this gonna print? What are these 3 lines gonna print? 4 lines gonna print?
3, 6, 9. That's all.
It's like fixed.
No, it's equal or less, so it's also.
Also 12. There
You 2 got it? Did you? This I is gonna start as a 3. At the end of every iteration, it's gonna be added 3. And it's gonna be here until it is 12. So it's gonna write the number is 3, the number is 6, the number is 9, the number is 12. Is clear? If it is not clear, stop me, guys. This one? Tell me what this one is gonna do.
I see what you did. You will drink 49 times.
This is for the movie.
Yes. Do you understand the conditions like this? I'm going backwards. I'm starting for 50. I'm reducing of 1 every iteration until I get to 1. Well, not really to 1, to 2, exactly. So actually, yeah, I will be drinking 49 times. Alright? Okay. The for loop is one of the 2 basic loops. The other one is called while. It is very, very similar, but easier. You can think it as in English. While this is true, do the code block. For example, this time I have to create the countdown outside and I put it to 10. While countdown is bigger than 0, write countdown and subtract 1. So what he's going to write? It is similar, it is still a loop, but it is used in a different context.
But
because we could just write this as a 4 and say 4 countdown.
You're right. We could write, in this case, we could write it as a 4. But did you understand what you write, right?
Why there is a second countdown there?
What do you mean? These are two lines of code. This means print the value of countdown. This one means countdown minus less, which means -1. It is similar to what you have just seen here.
Okay, this is my idea then. It goes with that.
Sorry?
So it does the countdown, check on the while, then it prints it, then it does the countdown minus, then goes back up.
Exactly. Example. I can do it. I start from 10. Why? Is countdown minus the 0? It's 10. So yes, I'm gonna go into the block, in the code block. Print countdown, which is gonna print 10. Countdown minus, which means now countdown is 9. Is 9 not, greater than 0? Yes. Is 8 greater than 0? Yes. Is 7 greater than 0? Yes. 10 times it is going to write countdown, the value of countdown. So it's going to write 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is it going to write 0? No, because when it asks is 0 greater than 0, it is not out of the while. As you can see, I also wrote it here. While is a loop, just like the for loop, but it is used in a different way. When you have the for loop, you know already how many times you're gonna iterate. For example, here I created this knowing that I wanted to iterate 49 times. With the while, usually you use it when you don't know how many times you want to iterate. You remember last lecture that we've seen a function that was input get key, which recognized if I pressed the key.
Yeah.
I can do while key is not pressed, right key is not pressed. That's what you usually do with a swipe for. There is a variation to the while. Works in the exact same way, but there is a variation. It is called do while. The difference why didn't you? Ah yes, because it's already been here. The difference between the while and the do while, it's only that the code block is executed before checking the condition. So with the do while, unless always at least one time you will do the code block. You don't get it? Okay, let's write here. What is this gonna write?
Yeah,
Nothing, that's right. Here, however, is different. If I have countdown, here, it's gonna do the code block, so it's gonna write 0, and only then it's gonna ask me, is it 0 greater than 0? If it is, back to it again. If it is not, exit. Not mine. Anya, I see you quite confused. Do you? What's unclear?
No, it's fine. I'm just wondering
The do while.
I mean, why would it be?
When you need something to be done at least once. For example, if for the while I wanted to put the condition key pressed down, a key of the keyboard pressed down, if that key is not pressed down, I would never see the content of the while. In this case, at least once I will see the content. There are some specific cases in which we will need to use one or the other. It will be a little bit easier. You will understand it better when I give you a little bit of exercise about it. It will make more sense. But just know that these exist. Actually, both the while and the do while, you don't use them a whole lot in game programming. The for, yes. The while and do while, not really, because since they can loop a lot, it's something that can give you problems with performances. So no need to worry, you won't see them often. But just know that they exist. And so if you have to read them, you understand what they mean. Last but not least is the one you saw me use a little bit before, the for each. The for each is just like the for, but even lazier. Instead of giving explicit number of iterations, I give him something to iterate on. Now it's a little bit confusing. This one here is an array. I'm going to write it a little bit better so that you understand it better.
No. You can completely remove the X as well.
Oh, okay. And then
and the same with the jumping. Here we check, should be done.
Here I just wrote an array with the syntax we saw before. Is it clear? Is any? Okay, this is an array. This is an array that contains these 6 values. It's an integer array. Now, just as you would say in English, for each number in numbers, I want you to print it to me. It's very, very easy and very, very useful because sometimes you do have collections and arrays of values, and you just iterate like this on all the values. This one, you use it a lot in game programming. That's why I wanted to show it to you. You need to specify what's the type of iteration you're going to do, and you create a variable for that. So I'm creating a variable number that it's going to be every iteration of numbers. And I'm writing number here. What do you think it is going to be written on the console? Exactly.
Another example
For each? This one. You saw it before. For each color name in color names, print it. It will print every color that I add in color names. You see? I'm gonna remove this because this is an error. We just saw this. Okay. These were the new paradigm of programming that I wanted to show you today. I'm sure you are a little bit overwhelmed by them. Hope that with a little bit of exercise with them, if they would be more natural. But it also depends on how much you want to get into coding and programming. So if you just need sometimes to help the programmer and you just need to understand what they are, now you do understand what they are. To understand how to use them properly, it's another thing. Now, the worst part of the lecture, guys. I am sorry, I know, but we need to do a little bit of math. Who here doesn't know what vectors are? What? Huh? You want him?
Vectors are my least favorite part.
No, come on. Actually, I'm very sorry, but whenever you're programming some mechanics or anything in game programming, algebra is important. I'm sorry, all math is important. The very first game I made for a Ludum Dare was a game with a light cone in which if you lit stuff up with the light cone, they would change behavior. I needed to use trigonometry to program that. I'm sorry to play that. This one is going to be easy. No. Cool. Can I start or do you want one more break?
Yeah.
Can I start or do you want one more break?
Destroying me already.
Is that 9 hours?
9
In
minutes.
game development, we use vectors to define meshes, directions, and all manner of other calculations, which makes them essential to understand. A vector is a line drawn between 2 points. Vectors also have a length, known as their magnitude. Let's start off by simply looking at 2D vectors. A 2D vector is a way of representing a point from the origin, the 0, 0 point on a graph, to any point on the 2D plane. Since it is from the origin, it has an implied direction. It's made up of 2 components, x and y. These represent the distance from 0 along the x and y in each axis. In this example, our vector goes from the origin to position 12, 5. The length of the distance between these points is called the magnitude. This can be worked out mathematically by using Pythagoras' theorem, which states that the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares on the other 2 sides.
I'm gonna just repeat it a little bit so that it's maybe anything better. Vector are multidimensional values. No, bigger. Vectors are multidimensional values. For example, a vector can have 2 dimensions, x and y. You're gonna use them a lot whenever you work with coordinate systems with 2 dimensions. Now, you probably can easily understand how to use a vector to identify a position. For example, if my vector is 3 and 4, what point am I showing? I'm referring to. This is my point. Alright, can you see here? Do you want to get closer?
I have the background noise.
That's right. Okay. In this representation, it is actually showing it as a vector and not only as a point. This would be a vector. A vector is an arrow, basically, and it is always characterized by direction, a burst, and a magnitude, which is how long it is. What he was telling you now is Pythagoras theorem that you remember. What does the Pythagoras theorem say?
A squared plus b squared is c squared.
The square of the hypotheses are equal to the square of the hypotenuse. Yes.
Hypotenuse is like you.
Exactly. So we want to calculate the hypotenuse here. I'm going to use this notation just to identify the magnitude modulus. It's going to be so. I can feel despair. Now, I write like a horrible man, but I feel like you do understand everything that is in here. This is a vector, this is a magnitude.
The hypotenuse in vector maths is the magnitude that we're trying to find. Imagine that there are 2 people in a field called Charles and Quentin, with a lethal vendetta. Being gentlemen, they've agreed to a pistol duel, but their guns only have a range of 12 units. So can they shoot one another? Let's find out. As you can see, the magnitude is the square root of the sum of the x and y positions on the grid squared, which when added together makes 169. The square root of 169 is 13, so Charles and Quentin will be unable to shoot one another, which is excellent, as violence has no place in this tutorial. Also, Charles totally had a crossbow the whole time. Let's look at another example of using vectors to solve a problem in 2D space. We've already learned that vectors can be used to denote a position in space relative to the origin point. But you should also know that a moving object has a velocity, a change in position over time. This can also be expressed as a vector. In this diagram, Frederick is at position 5, 6, and has a velocity of 12.5 per hour. This means that he will travel in a direction that is 12 further in the x-axis and 5 further in the y-axis. So in order to find his new position after 1 hour, we'd add his current position vector to his velocity vector to discover where he will end up. 17, 11. Remember that all vectors are expressed relative to the origin, the 0 point in space. And this is no different for velocity vectors. In the same way that 5, 6 is a position relative to the 0 position, 12, 5 is a velocity relative to 0 motion. So whilst he may still have the same velocity, 17, 11 is Frederick's new position vector after 1 hour. This is useful in game development tasks that involve prediction.
We are going to use this today, the velocity part. Was it all clear? Would help if I went to the whiteboard or?
No, I think so.
Okay, yeah, so
It's okay. Okay.
It's okay, well, please stop. I think we understand.
You should note that the components of
By
the
the way, I will give you guys the link to this playlist. This is an old playlist made for Unity, for programming in Unity. It is quite simple stuff. I think you now have all the basis to understand the playlist.
Something. I see when I watch something on YouTube, they're all beginners. If we want to move
Sorry?
it's easy to find those tutorials which are beginners, but how can we find something after beginner, like intermediate or hard courses? Because I think all of them are beginner.
You usually in Unity, when you're looking for tutorials on YouTube, you don't write intermediate or advanced tutorials. You write a specific question that you have in mind. For example, how to do procedural animation, how to do inverse kinematic animation, how you want to, for example, I explained a little bit before, how to make an object recognize that it's inside a cone of view. You write like that on Google usually, and you find people with those ideas. You may also find YouTube tutorials about it. Maybe sure as hell there is somebody that on Udemy wrote a Unity intermediate and advanced course, but I honestly don't know about those. I never took one, so
maybe after learning the beginner parts, we should start doing some games, and if we have problems, then search those.
Totally. In programming, all programming, and video game programming as well, you have to try it out. Try new stuff, get into it, gets your hand dirty, and that's how you will learn more and more and more.
final position are equal to the sum of the components of the two vectors. 5 plus 12 is 17 in the x-axis, and 6 plus 5 is 11 in the y-axis. This also applies to subtraction. Three-dimensional vectors work the same as 2D, but extrapolated into the z-axis, which represents depth. The x and z axes make up a horizontal plane, and y is the direction that points up. Unity works on a left-handed coordinate system.
Please, also Tim and everybody who did algebra before, Unity use a left-hand coordinate system. It's important because it means that all cross vectorial multiplication is the opposite.
Yeah, on the other apps, Z is normally up.
No,
On 3D things that I'm using, Z is up usually.
So you have X, Y, and Z. This is a right-hand coordinate system. Unity uses a left-hand coordinate system. For the ones, you do use Blender, right?
Yeah.
Also Blender, I think it's right-handed.
Yeah, Z is up.
Okay.
I was quite surprised when I saw this on.
Just know this.
This means that if you hold your left hand with your index finger pointed upwards and your thumb pointed out to form an L shape, and your middle finger pointing away from you, then the thumb represents the x-axis, the index finger the y-axis, and the middle finger the z-axis. This hand gesture can be helpful to remind you of the order of the axes x, y, and z. Given that z represents depth, in our previous example, Charles and Quentin would have actually been stood on the xz plane. Keeping in mind that any coordinate state
I want you to pay attention to this image because this is our coordinate system, our position, and everything works in it here. We have this coordinate system, and the position that you remember on the transform, like here, what we write here, is exactly that.
in 3D will be ordered x, y, z. Quentin would have been stood at 0, 0, 0, the 3D origin, and Charles at 12, 0, 5. To make things more three-dimensional, we could imagine that Charles was on a higher vantage point. Now stood upon his 7-unit tall podium, Charles is at position 12, 7, 5. The calculation to find the magnitude of the vector between Charles and Quentin is the same as in 2D, but now features the z-axis. Unity makes it easy to perform calculations like this with its helper function, vector3.magnitude. See.
You remember from last time that you saw me using a function, for example, input.getKey. That's an example of a function. Here it is showing you the function vector3.magnitude. You will automatically calculate the magnitude without having to do that.
The documentation link below for more details. There are a couple of useful functions for 3D vectors, the dot and cross products. The dot product takes two vectors and produces a scalar, a single value, from them. To find the dot product of two vectors, we take their component parts, the x, y, and z values, and multiply them together to find the sum of the resultant values. This is expressed, for example, as ax times bx plus ay times by plus az times bz.
Before doing vector multiplication though, just to be sure, I'm going to show you how vector addition and subtraction are. For example, I have a vector here that
I'm not sure if I understood finding on 3D dimensional, like the squares. Is it the same, just adding the third one?
Or before we were talking about two-dimensional coordinate systems. So whenever you have a two-dimensional coordinate system, your vectors are 2D. When the coordinate system becomes 3D, so we have three fingers, the vectors becomes 3D. Now, I actually don't need you to understand the dot product. Probably you all have, in high school in physics, if you did physics. For example, the work is the dot product between the force and the displacement. Never mind. Now I'm going to write some vectors using algebra notation. For example, I have the vector 2. 2, 4. This is the x, this is the y. Now, to this vector, I'm going to add 1 as a scalar, which is not a vector, it's a scalar. What I'm going to get? From the ones of you who are not familiar with algebra. 3, 5. Same goes for subtraction and multiplication. For example, if I had 0, 1 multiplied, I'm going to use the dot, to 5. My writing is horrible, sorry guys. I've not been writing for so much time. I'm going to add, your turn now. 5, 5.
0, 5, 0, something well.
That's most like this. In Unity, it works like this.
In algebra, every time it works like this. When you have a vector multiplied by a scalar, all cells of the vector are multiplied by the scalar. Always like this in algebra.
For the addition.
Same, this is a scalar, it's not a vector. When you add a scalar to a vector, it is added to all the cells. It is different with vector plus vector.
can now try to increase the jump.
I am so impressed when games actually have decent feeling physics, you know.
Ignore it.
Can't imagine how hard it is.
What am I gonna get?
Okay, trying games without research.
Great.
Does anybody agree?
Wait, anytime.
What's the result?
I think this is perfect.
Go back to the range.
Do I want to do the dot product?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, we don't need the dot product tutorial. Also, it's here.
And it seems to be like the same. With
I need you to understand just these few operations because we will be using them in a minute. If, for example,
I'm not sure why.
I have
In reality, it doesn't
a character in the position
Can you do that here?
4, 2, yeah? 2, 4. Sorry, what?
I'm not sure if I understood finding character in 3D. Like, I understood in 2D, it's something square, she said, equals x squared, y squared.
Ah, no, that's finding in magnitude.
Yeah, but magnitude in 3D, is it the same?
The same.
Just adding that?
Exactly.
It's not turning into 3, right? Just saying.
like stay on the thing a little bit and then
Okay, it's still the same.
Alright?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm sure you understood this, but I'm going to repeat it just to be extra sure. We have a character, Quentin, how was it called? On the position 2, 4. And Quentin's speed is 0, 4. And, well, let's change it, actually, because
by the way, you can also make them for the player prefer. Go to the content.
Quentin's speed is 3, 0.
And you can
Where is Quentin gonna be?
double click on this, and then you get a
Same on y,
you see it also says
3 up
So
on x.
basically, this is like an object that you check and put
So, this way.
yes.
Until I see all three of you with convinced eye.
You can see this also.
Ah, that's right, you already know that.
And you can also use these arrows to
I figured this one out.
Quentin is gonna be here. This is what we're gonna be using now to move the characters. Is it alright?
Yeah,
Let's see what else.
I think this is
beautiful.
That's amazing. I'm gonna show you the rest. Yeah, you don't need the rest of the video. You can watch it alone at home if you want to. Let's get back to here.
No,
I still have another thing. Like when you wrote like 2, 4 plus 1, then it's not becoming a vector, it's becoming a scalar. So it's becoming a scalar.
It's still a vector.
Okay.
An addition between a vector and a scalar is still a vector. 100%.
Okay.
You will also see that in a moment.
okay, what are the values in the script? Or what is
Okay, guys. I'm doing now stuff a little bit interesting also for the one who already know programming if you want to. Now, let's get it on. I'm gonna create a character controller. We did the same last time. Now we're gonna do it with the knowledge we've seen today. Okay then. I'm gonna go to my folder scripts. If you didn't do one, up to you deciding whether to do it or not.
Should we do it as well?
Yes, now you should write what I'm writing.
Okay.
Now,
Should we add this to our player?
Yes, create a script, call it player controller or character controller. No, player controller, because character controller already exists in Unity and it could get problematic. Player controller. Well, just to scare you off, the game I showed you before, the one in blue with the red ball jumping, this was his player controller. Huh? A little bit less. A little bit less divine. Okay then. We have a player controller. I'm trying to understand if Tim cares. You know what? I will just explain to the four of you.
No, go ahead.
Okay. We need to add some things, both to our platforms and our players. Colliders.
Yeah, I did that.
You already had colliders?
2D colliders.
2D box colliders, exactly. I'm gonna do it a little bit faster by selecting all of them, all the platforms. Add component. 2D box collider.
I tried it with normal one. It touches it, but it still falls. Then I changed it into 2D.
Yes, you have to use box collider 2D for 2D platforms.
Otherwise it touches it, but it still falls.
Because it's not the proper collider. And okay, so I added colliders. I'm gonna add a collider also to the ground. You can see this green line. That shows me that the collider is there.
Can I ask you something? So we have a platforms called on the top of platform 1, 2. So if we add collider to platforms instead of other 2, 3 platforms, will it affect the other 3? Did I?
Sorry, you want me to platforms
Okay.
is used just to keep all the platforms in there for order. So that if I want to hide them, I just do this.
Okay, but if I add
Don't add the collider on platforms, but only on the singular platforms. Do you understand?
yeah.
Okay.
What happens if I added the platform?
It simply doesn't have sense because you're not really.
It doesn't have a body. That's
No, the point. Look, do you see where it is? It's here in the middle,
okay.
and it's only one.
Okay. I got it.
And most importantly, if I'm moving, if I wanted to, for example, now we have this collider here. I'm moving into here, right here. If I were to move this, the collider would no longer be in place. So you always want to have the components on the game object as minimal as possible.
Okay. I thought if we had the collider on it, it would be just on all of it as a check.
That's not a good way of doing it. You will create yourself a lot of problems when you have to fix that. So we added colliders to the ground, to the platforms, and we're gonna add a collider also to the player.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna lower this just a little bit because I want it to be able to collide with the player moving.
Should we add rigid body to?
Not yet. I'm waiting for license. Okay, you're there. You're also here. Okay, I'm getting back to the code. Now, we previously called variables. Now I'm gonna call a variable. I'm gonna declare a variable that is of a class type. This type is different from the types we've seen before. This type refers to this component here. And Okay.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
I understand when we put transform up void and update, it affects both of it.
Yes.
But why don't we put it up public class?
You cannot do that. Well, you can, but that's not what you want to do. That I cannot explain you yet what a class is. Just accept now that it goes there. I will eventually explain you guys what classes are, but that's a little bit forward. Okay then. Now you're not gonna understand this line, but you have to write it. I'm gonna explain it to you in a way. As you know, variables are containers. I want this variable to contain specifically the component of my game object. And that's why I get the component. I will eventually explain you again and better what get component do. But now understand that when you do get component, you're just asking for the specific component of the game object this script is attached to. You get it? I see you confused.
What is the component?
All that you see here, transform, sprite renderer, box collider, are all components.
So everything inside the everything inside the inspector.
Game object, yes. The inspector shows me the game object. This is the player game object.
Yeah, but I see the components, everything inside that.
The attributes, yes. For example, transform is one that is always going to be there for every game object. Sprite renderer is the one we have there that shows us the box. And the box collider is this little green stuff around it.
I was asking just because maybe if I add something to the inspector of the object, it get affected by the script. Also when you do get
if on the script you ask for one of these components and you change the component in the script, yes, it's gonna change, and it's what we're gonna do now.
Can I ask something as well on when we did the transfer on as variable in there, we just put t. Normally we put like equal something, we didn't do anything.
That's called initialization. It's what I went to immediately initialize the thing. This time though, I want to do it here, inside start. You see?
Yeah.
Because start, it is called at the start of the scene, and that's only when I can get it's only in that time I can get the component. I cannot get the component before that. These are specific stuff to how Unity calls the start and the update functions. We will also see that more in detail later. Not later today, in later lectures. Also, I'm gonna put private here, because I want that only script sees it.
But wouldn't it be private if we didn't write anything?
Yes, it would also be private, but it is a good convention to always write the modifier, the access modifier. You cannot write it, yes, but you usually do that. Now I'm gonna create a public vector tree. Movement. You're right. Let's have a vector 2. We are using 2D, so yes, let's have a vector 2s. And I'm also going to initialize it. It is a vector 2, being a class type, needs to be initialized like this. We will see it again next time, don't worry. Yes, it took way much time that we wanted to recap.
Basically what a vector 2 is, or what classes are, classes are used if you want to bundle several simple variables together. Like, for example, a vector is a class that has multiple floats inside it. like one float for x, one float for y, one float for z. Or in this case, since we're using vector 2, we have one float for x and one float for y.
Okay, can I go forward? Are you guys here?
Yeah.
Halfway here?
A bit like, why did we put new vector again, like just not 0, 0?
You have to use this syntax with class variables. We will get into that, I promise. For now, accept that that's the syntax you gotta use. Okay, now, very simple usage of this thing.
Go for it.
If input get key down space maybe I wanted to do it as easy as possible, so I will be doing cannot casting in here.
We're using vector 3, 2.
Yes, I'll explain it in a bit. Sorry. No, actually, wait. X, Y, Z. Yes. Okay. In a moment it gets more interesting, I promise. Input dot get key down code space. This is a function, we will see function. I think you do understand what it means though. What does it mean? Yes. When I press space, this gets executed. Now, T is the transform of my game object. So whenever I say T, it's gonna be him. I want T dot position, which is him, plus equals, we've seen it before, I believe everybody remembers it. A new vector tree, I'm using a vector tree instead of 2 because, exactly. Movement X, movement Y. Stop me if there is something here that bothers you. Now,
inside the vector 3, could we use directly just vector 2 move?
Vector 3 and vector 2 are two different things. They have different sizes. So you either need to do this or casting, which is telling him to use another type. I wanted to use this because I believe it's easier to understand.
Wasn't it vector 2? Or was it vector 3?
Yes, I created a vector tree out of the vector 2 by putting the x, the y of the vector 2.
But why you do that since we are running?
Because I needed to now, even if yes, we are making a 2D game, but Unity still has a 3D coordinate systems.
Okay.
Look at here.
Yeah, okay.
He's lying to us. He's only showing us what we want to see. But the truth, there is a third dimension. These are the shadows that we see in the cave, but there is a sun outside. Okay. Now I'm gonna add this script we made, that it was the player controller, to the player. Look! I made the vector 2 public. Do you remember? So I can see it here. Put some numbers in there. Small numbers though, because otherwise you won't see what happens. You have 2 player scripts now. How did that happen?
I cannot assign my.
You cannot assign your.
My script doesn't.
I need a queue of mistakes.
That is called layer. Here.
Ah, you are
Otherwise, you can't find. And you can either do it like this, or you can try to do it. And now you can.
Is it still the balls?
No, it's now a tire.
That's usually the solution with programming. Show me the value. I wouldn't say do you remember the difference between
I guess if you have visited say
now you movement.
maybe we can
Guys, wish list now.
I didn't do any Unity this week, so
Oh, come have a look at the dates. Mondays, Wednesdays, just
okay, guys. I'm calling back attention if everybody is done.
oh my god, this could actually be a mobile video.
I disabled the movement at the moment.
Oh no!
Collision. I hope you're not tired.
Oh, it's my very exhausting.
I can imagine them three, how exhausted they are.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really cool.
Show me.
Okay, well.
Here moving the 0, 0 consideration.
Well, I want you guys to try putting some values. You're doing it. Is it working? Is it? So this should help you understand how addition of vectors works, right?
I'm not sure why.
You are adding vectors. We are having what we have is
Here and we said, okay, set
that is a three-dimensional vector,
So glad that you said no because I
and we are adding. For example, what values have you brought? 1, 1.
One moment, can you put up the script again? Where is it?
What do you need?
This one, I think. Yes. Someone asked whether we can show the script again.
Sorry.
Do you guys understand what we are doing?
Yeah.
Now it's gonna get a lot more complicated. Are you ready? Oh, it's already complicated. And it's like
Yeah, the firewall is acting up.
now.
If the skills, take a screenshot because I'm going forward.
Okay. Now I'm gonna put this in a comment block. I'm gonna make it a little bit more difficult. It's similar to the other time though, so it's not that different. I'm gonna create a new variable. And it's gonna be let's put it outside.
It's in the void. Where did you void?
The update is the name of this function. Okay, that var. Now what is it? Is it? Wait a second.
Input get access is a float.
Get access, yes. Do I want it row?
But it's a float. It's a float between 1 and
Yes,
-1.
I want it row. It's still a float, okay. Okay, making it like this, like this. Final version, I promise. You're a genius, Tim.
Yes, I think.
How could you hide all your genius from us? It's similar to when I'm asking for the space button to be pressed down. But what I'm asking, if the buttons that correspond to left and right are being pressed. Now this is gonna tell the arrows, but also what? So also A and D will react to this. You know that with games usually use buzz.
Because you said horizontal, just 80.
Exactly. We only need horizontal now.
Do we want to show the input map in the editor?
No, next time.
Just to show
It's so late
okay,
now.
Okay.
From horizontal. Now we're gonna move it like we did a moment ago. Now I'll tell you once again. Horizontal, if you leave your mouse over here, will tell you, returns the value of the virtual axis, which means 1 if you're pressing the button that corresponds to the right, -1 if you're pressing the button to the left, 0 if you do nothing. Let's see, do you understand this line?
Yeah.
What's the problem, Anya? Another error? Is it working? Is it compiling? Okay then. Let's try it out what happens.
Mine gives
It's gone. No, maybe not. Yeah, it's here. You see, I press once, up, up. It's too fast. Why do you think it is that fast? Why do you guys think it is that fast? Because yes.
This, for example, is just a string.
Okay.
Show me.
This one is so very, so these are completely different. I have to stop there.
But is there something when it starts?
No, it's fine. I'm gonna show you how to do it with velocity, but it's the best way to do it. I had this genius idea. I was not coming this platformer game, but when I was right, like the background
You see,
yes, but you have the vectors.
here he's getting the current position, okay, and he's using a plus equal. You are using the equal. So basically, what you are doing is making your player between the positions.
Yeah, but you need to go into infinity. What if I told you? What if I told you my die and everything moved except the die? Yes!
Yes, that's what we have to do, but I'm waiting for them to implement it and write the line in.
So it's completely okay. It's so fast.
Because of the
That's your frame rate.
yeah.
So this is done every single frame. So if you have
The left per frame.
if you have 1,000 frames, it's adding your position 1,000 times. Okay? While you have 10 frames, it's just 10 frames slower. So the faster right now, the higher your frame rate is, the faster you're moving.
It's same for every computer by embedding programs.
Yes, we're using a floating variable that is compensating for fluctuating frame rates.
Okay, you guys, I have all three of you wrote it down. Does it work in your machines? It is very fast, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Ali. Ali.
It's gonna be space.
You don't? That's what you think? Alim. Alim, are you happier now?
Transform requires a vector tree.
You need to do vector 3, man.
Yeah, you can do vector 3 with just the first two parameters.
That's awful.
You have a declaration that allows you to do that.
That's simply awful.
I'm not telling you. Why? Because if you know that it's 0, you don't need to do it.
You're declaring a three-dimensional vector by only giving two values.
Yeah, because you know the third one is 0.
Whoever wrote that declaration is you. Anya, is it working on your machine? Okay, now, why is it going very fast? We already said it last lecture. Because update is called every frame. So it means that you're pressing the button once, but for all the time that is updated, that is pressed, for all frame that there is going to add it. What we want to do is to multiply this vector, but the time that has passed between the frames. In this way, if a lot of frames have been there, the time is going to be very small. Yes?
Or to make it more little bit, to clarify it a little bit more, your computer, your games are running at a frame rate. Depending on what your computer is, maybe you are running your editor by 1,000 times per 1,000 frames per second. Maybe others just 60 times. 60 frames per second. The problem is, right now we are adding a fixed movement value every frame. So people with a lot of frames, the player is zooming off the screen, while for a player with a low frame rate, it would just move very slowly. Okay? And we somehow have to compensate for it. So regardless of the frame rate, it should do a smooth movement with the same speed regardless of frame rate. Okay? And for that, we are using the value time.delta_time. Delta time is the time since the last frame. So for high frame rates, this is a very small value. So high speeds will get slowed down a lot, while low frame rate have a larger delta time. So the slow movement gets sped up a little bit.
So it modifies according to the frame rate?
Yes.
And how you know how much it is changing? It is handled in
Time delta time.
What?
Time delta time is exactly how much time has passed between frames.
So basically, instead of
your frame rate is a frequency, isn't it? Okay. How do you calculate frequencies?
How do you?
Calculate frequencies.
Things per second.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's 1 divided for the second passed.
Okay.
That's what we have here. having how much time passed, we have the frequency.
By multiplying by delta time, we are not saying we want to move so much per frame, but so much over time.
I remember last time when we used time delta time, we put it inside of parentheses.
I think it was a different situation. I don't remember now, but like this, it is okay.
Okay.
Also, what we're having is here.
I remember like it was horizontal, then multiply, then time delta time, then the comma, then 0, 0.
Do you remember when we saw a moment ago the multiplication between a vector and a scalar? This is the
So
case.
it's the same. If we put it next to horizontal, would it work again?
Would work in the same exact way. I wanted to do like this to remind you the multiplication between vector and scalar.
Okay.
Why the y-axis?
Here, can you see? Okay, this is your vector.
Yeah.
Times delta time. Okay, this is
All of them are effective.
x times delta time. 0 times delta times 0. 0 times delta times 0. So it's the same. Okay.
So we need to add right now like multiply 3 to horizontal, so I make it fast.
I don't know. I'm just saying, but
Come again?
hopefully as
Like if I had that here,
we just know that the other one also is
getting used to this. 3 like this, so I can make this faster.
Yes.
So it's better now.
Yes. What you can do also is.
It is quite slow, isn't it, Daniel?
Yeah.
But it's working. That's
We
really-
want to add a speed modifier.
Yes, but I'm waiting to everybody to write down what we already did.
Okay.
Is everybody on power? Okay, go to Tim. You four, are you guys on power? Are you there? Can we go forward? Now, our character is moving very slowly. Basically, it's moving of horizontal unit every second. So it's moving at maximum speed 1 per second. It's not that bad, but neither that good. We want it to move faster. So let's do this. I'm gonna make a public int variable, and I'm gonna call it speed. And I want my speed to be, I don't know, 3. It is public, so I can change it in this vector later. And now, like we did before, multiplication between a vector and a scalar, I'm going to multiply this vector for speed.
Okay, there are many ways how to do it.
I'm just waiting for them to write down.
Now we can
Because
change
also solution is
Yes.
attached to this.
I'm going to leave this here for a moment.
Another possibility would be, okay, this is how we do it when we want
You're
to
there?
make the information.
Try it out a little bit. No, you can still write. Sorry. Hi.
For example, you could, if you want to reconcile the
What? Yes, it doesn't instantly move and doesn't instantly stop. Do you want to? Do you know to want to? Do you want to know why? It's because of get axis. Get axis, as imagine it like the analog of a controller, like a PS4 or an Xbox controller, that goes to the side and goes back to the center. And to go to the side, to the maximum value, it has to pass through the center. It is thought for something like that. So you have this value going from 0 to 1 with all that there is in between. And then to get back from 1 to 0 with all that there is in between. This means that even if you stopped pressing, it's going to pass those numbers, so it's going to move a little bit again. And the moment you start pressing is not immediately 1, but it's going to be those numbers. That's why I usually use get axis row. Get axis row. Get axis row differently from get axis, gives you only 0, 1, minus 1. Exactly.
What if I want to control the get axis, to be more, to be quicker, or
That's why you multiply speed,
okay,
so that it is a bigger number. Get axis will always be minus 1, 0, 1.
What does row do?
Instead of giving you all the values between minus 1 and 1, gives you only minus 1, 0, 1. It is better for game feel because it's more snappy. You are speed. Is clear. For example, I'm going to increase speed now to 5. But now I'm going to show you guys something that we don't like.
We changed the jumping.
This is now only for this level. Okay? Because your feature doesn't know.
But that's fine. That's fine.
And then technically you could calculate the offset. How much is
Oh, that's right.
this then? You would have to
Bye. Have a nice evening.
I can just bye. Now I can go.
Okay, people. One final thing for today, which is not that short, and also requires your full brain power. You there? What we are doing right now is moving the character using the math we have understood so far. It is important to understand this math, but there is something here that is not going right. It's passing to the obstacle. We don't like that. Why is it doing that? Because we are just moving it. We are not using physics. We need... They have colliders, but two colliders don't give collision if there is no rigid body. But also, even if there was a rigid body, we would just create some weird stuff. For example, now I'm gonna add the rigid body to the player. And it's gonna be a rigid body 2D.
So that's why I already because if I wait another year, my touch is gonna I have to take 3.5 years to complete this program and I don't want that.
But if you go next year,
technically
If I go under it and press space, it goes off.
Yeah. Maybe I can do
like a car trying to.
Exactly. Sorry?
Mine has a rigid body, but if I do this, it goes up.
Yes, that's the problem. The problem you see here is similar. Can you see how it is snapping?
Yeah.
That's not normal. That's because we are trying to move it, and the basic system sees that we are trying to move it inside the obstacle, and it snaps it out. That's because so far we have been using the movement of the transform. What we need to use is physics. Now, we will explain it better next time, since today it was a little bit slower than we wanted to. But what we're gonna do is to just like we made a component for transform, we're gonna make one for the rigid body. And we're gonna get the component for the rigid body. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. These two lines. Remember to write them in the right position.
Yes,
So you can actually make a game.
Okay, and here when I had this line, as you can see, I commented it, and I'm gonna do a similar thing. Let's do like this.
I feel like that is going to be
I feel you. I had the same problem. I don't look forward to next semester when we actually gonna have to
transform the position.
I may participate in the competition just to get some practice, but it's so much effort.
Now, this time I'm using vector 2 instead of vector 3, because the component we are working with are rigid body 2D and not the position, which is 3D. But as you can see, it is a very similar thing. But this time, instead of applying displacement, we are applying speed. Velocity, speed. Now, this is not gonna be what we want to. Let's see what happens.
See, the thing is, I do like writing, like writing about my thoughts and feelings. I don't like a.
The speed is not enough. Do you remember last time that I created a physics material? I'm gonna do the same this time because we need it.
To see like the actual research.
So, right click, create.
I have so many questions.
No worries, I also find it. Physics material. I'm calling it slippery.
In this case, we don't.
And I'm gonna put the friction to 0 in the inspector. And getting back to the player, I am adding it to the material. Sorry, to the player. As you can see, guys, I'm dragging it to the player. Ali. Ah, wait. No. Maybe. Wait. Yes, me too. Probably because I have to make a physics material 2D. But how did I do that? Yes, sorry. Because we are using 2D, my bad. We're using 2D, so we have a physics material 2D. Can anybody see?
I'm not sure why we want this.
Sorry?
I don't remember why do we add this.
We are adding this because there is friction in physics. We don't want this friction because we want everything to be fast. We're adding, dragging slippery physics to the material to player, and also increasing the speed value like 100. And let's see how it works now. Still slow. I'm gonna put it faster.
It's not in the material. You didn't add it to physics rigid body. But isn't it for the collider, not for the...
should we add it to collider or?
If you add it, it's usually you add it to the collider, but the idea is that you add it to the player like this. The editor will understand what to do.
Or you can drag and drop it into the inspector.
Yes. The thing is, they were asking if I had to put it in the box collider.
Oh, okay.
It should be the same thing. The music is not coming from me.
Not from me either.
Is everybody here?
How long should we make it?
Just a few more seconds.
Next time, power-ups. Connected.
Yeah, next time a lot of stuff. Next time we have to do a lot of stuff that we didn't do today. Functions, the update and so on.
But now, if mine doesn't fall down. Like I started from up and it doesn't fall down.
I think we're just setting y to 0.
Like it's really.
Like this?
Yeah, but if I put it up, it's
but it is coming down.
Yeah.
Try increasing the mass.
Or the gravity scale.
Or the gravity
okay,
scale.
man. Because before we wrote the code for rigid body, it wasn't like this.
Now getting back from what we wrote recently, before.
We are now trying to make the player jump. So
This line here on top, add a new variable. New variable. And here, getting back to the if statement, I'm gonna comment away the line that we did before, and I'm gonna put rigid body dot head force, and I'm gonna do like this.
with this, we are applying a force upward.
Sorry. What do you want from me? Sorry? New vector.
It doesn't have implicit condition.
Copy everything.
I don't think 10 is enough.
No, we'll just finish with this. You guys done? I'm gonna try it out. Not working either.
I think it's too small to increase the force.
Why doesn't it work? You get down the space. It is. Maybe the gravity is too much now. No, it's too slow. Why is it slow? Yeah. It is too slow, the jump.
It does not jump, or it's just this gets
Well, actually, the force is been added, but it is too small. You have to increase it. Like I've increased it to 10,000. Why are you going down there? It is quite fast. Yes, we can do it better, but we will do it better next time. Huh? You're try increasing the jump force like this.
Can you try multiplying the data time?
No, because make it mistake.
I know, but
Key down.
yeah.
And also, we already have to put a lot up.
Hmm.
We will start from this next time. I will also give you exercises to make you better understand the topics we have discussed today, so that next time we can go a little bit faster.
Doesn't go.
Doesn't work?
Doesn't fall or doesn't go up?
It goes up, but it doesn't fall.
It's really easy, but you have to.
Okay, try it. Try increasing the value.
So your camera has
So it's more close.
So you made it pretty fast. The best way is
Oh, that's right.
It was inside of it.
Yeah.
deleted the
I think it's better now.
Another way of doing it is like this.
Why doesn't it go inside of it? We had this material already.
right click on the page.
I think you should set the velocity not accurate.
And if you want to
I know what I'm doing this. I know what, wait, I have just to check again my old script because I remember doing it in a very nice way. Yes. But the point was yeah, let's do it like this just to show them a little bit of smoothness. Yeah, the thing is that I don't remember what I mean. Okay. We shouldn't be doing this here. Yes. What was it? I don't remember.
I don't think we should overcomplicate it.
No, I'm not gonna overcomplicate it. I'm just gonna
I think the issue is
set
that
the goal from there.
I think the issue is that we are applying force not inside fixed update.
Yes and no. That's not the problem because, well, it doesn't change for force, it changes for velocity, yes. But we should do it in fixed update, but we also have to explain what fixed update is next time. That's the point. Ah, that's right.
Should we close it one?
Movements. Oh, come on. You're annoying.
okay, so the idea is probably you don't want it to move on you want to have it no.
Let's see if I can do without having update.
Okay, if the camera is
Thank you. I just want to add a little bit of smooth movement before closing today. But you already know it's not going to work because it's always like that when I rush.
No, because this is just for transform. This is Okay, yeah, that's the background.
Unexpected.
Okay, so you make it also like
I think next time we should just do it in fixed update and update the velocity instead of adding force for jumping.
Today is not the day for me. Why are you not working? Tell me. I won't be mad, the problem.
How to spawn. Oh, because okay. No, I need to make another screen.
Well, let's leave it like this for today. Next time we will start from where we arrived, and we are gonna not recap the programming parts of the first lecture again. So try to review that, but as I said, I will give you exercises so that you can better understand it, and text me if you need any help with those. We are neither gonna review what we did today for the programming part, so know the loops, know the arrays. That's also gonna be in exercises. Next time we were gonna do the character controller. We're gonna explain a little bit what object-oriented programming is. And then
we are going to do collisions.
Yes.
And add some collectibles for our player into the level that we can then collect, high score, etc. Any questions so far?
Is that a question? So don't delete this project because we will start up from this.
Yeah. Everyone who joined in Twitch, thank you for coming by.
Oh, there was actually 2 people.
No, there were more.
Even more than 2.
Thank you, Sati. I will try your game later tonight, and I will let you know.
Well,
in the review section, I think, of it.
I'm gonna finish the stream by playing Nino. Just to remind what we're gonna make for these lectures. What was the name?
So I think everyone who is here is planning on attending the mini jam, right? There are no other people.
What was my name?
So the board suggested that we should meet tomorrow, Friday. Is it 5 okay for you?
I have a class till 6.
6?
Do you want to
6:30?
want we do it in the morning earlier than the others? Or between 12
Then we have
and then I have to work.
yeah, we do.
Between 12 and 4? No, it's between 10 and 12.
You need to add a little bit of coyote jump, so that even if I jump over the edge, like, no, that's not fair. That was a frame issue because of the streaming.
Yeah, we do.
Why? Actually, a lot of frame. Let's close the stream. Goodbye, people from home. I'm gonna be making a YouTube video about this because I had to, and also goodbye.